A lot of the studies that they've done about everything from wildlife to buffering to fish habitat, shade, that sort of thing. 30 meters seems to be a number that gives you that balance between that and the practicality for the farmer.
The Beef Research School on realagriculture.com is brought to you by the Beef Cattle Research Council.
The three things that most producers that we've worked with have done are riparian fencing and off-stream watering, and then I guess the third one is kind of either a combination of those two and or other things or other ways of managing the pastures in the riparian areas through grazing rotation, for example, or just timing when animals are put into a riparian area. A lot of the folks that we've worked with, when it comes to the riparian zone, if they do want to make a change, what they'll do is they'll put up a fence and keep the cattle out, sometimes for a season, sometimes for 2 or 3 years. Some people, their objective is to keep them out essentially permanently and see what happens in terms of regrowth in the riparian area and that sort of thing. 30 meters gives you lots of room for the grass and the shrubs and the trees between the watering site and the water body to buffer out anything that might run off from the watering site. If there's a trough, the cows come there and nutrients tend to accumulate at the trough. So there can be a risk of runoff. So 30 meters gives you lots of room for all that. Any chance of nutrients running off is pretty much minimized with a 30 meter distance. 30 meters happens to also be a fairly good number in terms of balance between all the different riparian ecological functions and practicality for the farmer and rancher. A lot of the studies that they've done about everything from wildlife to buffering to fish habitat, shade, that sort of thing. 30 meters seems to be a number that gives you that balance between that and the practicality for the farmer. Plus, when you get into 30 meters then or more, then you can also have your fence line straighter. With that, the costs go down, the maintenance issues go down. A lot of guys are going to the approach of if there's going to be fencing involved, they'll fence their highlands and basically manage all their lowlands, including riparian areas, as a separate management unit, different from their highlands. And in a lot of ways, that makes a lot of sense for them because the vegetation, the grasses, and the other plants, and just the other issues that they have are very different between the highlands and the lowlands. So if they're able to manage them separately with a fence, then that really works for them too. So that's another thing that a lot of people do. We've been here long enough now that it's actually really cool, and that I get to go back to some sites that I saw maybe my first year or two here and see how much things have changed. The site that we're at now, I can't believe the amount of willows that have grown all on their own. When I was here in 2008, the landowner here had just recently taken over this land, and she made the change of putting in a fence along the riparian area along the Butcher Creek here. And when I was here in 2008, I might have seen willows that were like that, but they were few and far between. But they were obviously here somewhere because in the 5 years I guess since then, they're now up to my waist and higher, and they're almost everywhere. Like you can't look anywhere without seeing a willow now. So so it's really interesting and rewarding, I guess, to be able to see the results of what the landowners' changes have created. When the landowners make those changes, and again, the people like Cows and Fish have done the studies, and they can show the difference in biodiversity, the amount of biodiversity. There's one study I remember on the number of birds in a healthy riparian area versus an unhealthy riparian area, and I think it's exponential, the number of different species and the number of different animals in each species in those different riparian areas. On the North Raven where we were this morning, similar things. They've done fish counts, and they did, back 25 years ago, they counted the fish then, and they were, their fish populations were in pretty rough shape. Where now the North Raven is one of the most well-known trout fishing rivers in Alberta, if not beyond. So. And again, that's a lot to do with what the landowners have done over the years in looking after the land and making those changes. Well, there are some programs to help cover the costs when they make some of those changes. For example, Red Deer County has a program we're calling it now Conservation Partners. And that's a program where we're helping cover the costs, either 50% or 75%, if they have an environmental farm plan, of say a watering system or a riparian fence or a crossing, those sorts of things. Will just help cover those costs. Growing Forward is another, I guess that's a federal provincial program, so open to producers all across Alberta and I guess Canada too.